What happens when America's sweetheart host pushes one of Hollywood's most beloved gentlemen too far and he absolutely snaps on live television? It only took 32 seconds for Kelly Clarkson to ignite a firestorm that turned what everyone thought would be a friendly chat into an all-out war, leaving Colin Firth so furious he stormed off the set in front of millions of shocked viewers. This is the kind of television disaster that people will be talking about for years. Before we get into this absolutely insane confrontation that literally nobody saw coming, you need to hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, click it. We're bringing you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, the most explosive celebrity meltdowns, the backstage drama that never makes it to air, and all the shocking moments that happen when the cameras are rolling and people forget to keep their composure. Trust me, you absolutely don't want to miss what comes next, because this gets incredibly wild, incredibly uncomfortable, and incredibly real. So, here's what went down last night on The Kelly Clarkson Show. And I'm telling you right now, absolutely nobody in that studio saw this coming. Not the audience, not the crew, probably not even Kelly herself. This was supposed to be a feel-good interview, the exact kind that Kelly does better than almost anyone else in the business. She's known for being warm, genuine, making her guests feel comfortable. Instead, what happened was one of the most uncomfortable, explosive, and downright shocking confrontations that daytime television has ever seen broadcast live. Colin Firth walks out onto that stage looking every single bit the distinguished British actor that everyone across the world knows and loves. He's wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably costs more than most people's cars. His hair is styled just right with those little touches of gray at the temples that make him look even more sophisticated. And he's got that charming, slightly shy smile that's made him a household name for literally decades. The audience goes absolutely crazy the second they see him. People are on their feet immediately, clapping so hard their hands must hurt, cheering, screaming his name, and some people are even crying because they're so excited and overwhelmed to see him in person. This is Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice. This is the guy from The King's Speech. This is Mark Darcy from Bridget Jones. This is legitimate Hollywood royalty walking onto this stage. Kelly greets him with her usual infectious warmth and energy, practically bouncing over to give him a big hug, laughing and joking as they walk over to the chairs together. Everything seems absolutely perfect. The vibe is light and fun, and exactly what everyone expects from this show. Kelly is doing her thing, being bubbly and enthusiastic and genuinely excited, asking him about his flight to Los Angeles, complimenting his suit, making little jokes about how her British accent is terrible compared to his. Colin is being his typical, gracious, charming self, complimenting the show, saying how genuinely thrilled he is to be there, how much he's heard about what a wonderful host she is, making little self-deprecating jokes that have the audience laughing and falling even more in love with him. They start talking about his new film, some period drama set in the 1920s that's already getting serious awards buzz, and Oscar talk. Colin is describing his character with obvious passion and enthusiasm, talking about the extensive research he did for the role, reading diaries from that era, studying old film footage to get the mannerisms right, working with a dialect coach for weeks to perfect the specific regional accent his character would have had. Kelly is nodding along, asking genuinely good questions, really seeming interested and engaged. The conversation flows easily and naturally for the first several minutes, just like it's supposed to. They talk about his time living in Italy with his wife, his love of Italian food, and how he's learned to cook authentic pasta dishes, some funny stories from various movie sets over the years where things went hilariously wrong. Colin tells this great story about accidentally calling his co-star by the wrong character's name for an entire day of shooting and nobody correcting him because they thought it was a choice. Everyone is laughing. Everything is going exactly how these promotional interviews are supposed to go. Kelly asks him about working with the director, and Colin lights up, talking about the collaborative process, how they would spend hours discussing the character's motivation and backstory. He talks about the costume design and how wearing period clothing actually helped him get into character. The audience is completely engaged, hanging on his every word. This is what they came for. This is the Colin Firth they love. But then, maybe 12 or 13 minutes into the interview, Kelly shifts gears, and you can immediately sense something change in the entire atmosphere of the studio. It's subtle at first, but it's definitely there. The energy shifts from warm and friendly to something else, something pointed. "So, Colin," she says, and there's this edge to her voice that absolutely wasn't there just seconds before. "I want to talk about something that's actually been on my mind for a while now, and I think it's important we discuss it. You've played a lot of these upper-class British characters over the years, Mr. Darcy, the King, all these aristocratic roles where you're playing wealthy, powerful men. Do you ever worry about what message that sends to audiences, about perpetuating class systems and these structures of privilege?" Colin's smile falters just slightly. He blinks a few times, looking a bit confused, like he's not quite sure where this question is coming from, or why Kelly is suddenly taking this serious turn. "Well, I suppose I've never thought about it in quite those specific terms before. I'm an actor at the end of the day. I play the roles that are written, the roles that I'm offered. Many of them happen to be period pieces, because that's simply what British actors often get cast in. It's a bit of typecasting in the industry, really, but I've always tried to choose roles that have depth and complexity, characters that have real journeys." Kelly leans forward in her chair, her body language becoming noticeably more aggressive and pointed. "Right, but you have a choice in what you do, don't you? You're not some struggling, unknown actor who has to take every role that's offered just to pay rent. You have real power and influence in this industry. You could choose to take roles that actively challenge those power structures instead of glorifying them and making them look romantic. I mean, think about it. When you play these wealthy aristocrats as romantic heroes, as the idealized man that every woman watching wants to be with, aren't you basically telling audiences that wealth and class and privilege are attractive, desirable qualities that should be celebrated and aspired to?" The audience shifts uncomfortably in their seats, people looking around at each other with confused expressions. This is definitely not the light, fun, feel-good conversation they were expecting when they bought tickets to this taping. The mood has shifted completely. People are wondering what's happening and where this uncomfortable line of questioning is going. Colin straightens up considerably in his chair, his expression becoming noticeably more serious, that easy, charming smile completely gone now. I think that's quite a simplification and perhaps a fundamental misreading of what these stories are actually trying to say. Pride and Prejudice, for example, which seems to be what you're focusing on, is actually a fairly biting and subversive critique of class systems and the social expectations placed on women in that era. Elizabeth Bennet challenges absolutely everything about that rigid, oppressive system. She refuses to marry for money or social status alone. She demands respect and genuine emotional connection. But you're playing Darcy, who literally represents everything about that oppressive system. Kelly pushes back immediately, not giving him any space or breathing room. You're playing the wealthy landowner, the man with all the power, the man who can say and do whatever he wants because of his social position. And you're playing him as the romantic ideal, as this brooding, handsome, mysterious man that the audience is supposed to fall completely in love with, as the guy that every woman is supposed to want and dream about. Doesn't that completely undermine any critique the story might be trying to make? Doesn't that just reinforce the same systems you claim it's critiquing? Colin's jaw visibly tightens. You can see him taking a deep breath, trying very hard to maintain his composure and that famous British politeness he's known for. Again, and I really must insist on this point, I think you're missing the nuance and the actual substance of the story. Darcy grows throughout the narrative. He fundamentally changes as a person. He learns to see beyond his privilege and his preconceptions about class. He learns to value people for who they truly are, rather than their social standing or their family connections. That's the entire point of his character arc, his entire journey as a person. He has to fundamentally change who he is, humble himself, and recognize his flaws to deserve Elizabeth's love and respect. Does he, though? Kelly's voice is getting noticeably sharper now, more challenging, almost aggressive. Or does he just learn to be slightly nicer and more polite to people beneath his station while still maintaining all his wealth and power and privilege? The story still ends with the poor girl from the country marrying the incredibly rich guy and going to live in his giant mansion with servants and wealth beyond imagination. She benefits directly from his class position. That's not exactly revolutionary or subversive. That's literally reinforcing the fantasy that some wealthy, powerful man will come and save us from our problems. You can see Colin starting to get genuinely annoyed now, the frustration building in his voice and body language. His famous British politeness is still there, ingrained after decades of training and social conditioning, but it's visibly wearing thinner with every passing second. I'm not sure what you want me to say here, Kelly. Genuinely, I'm not. Should I not have taken the role back then? Should period dramas about that era not exist at all? Should we only make films about explicitly modern social issues? Should every single story be overtly political? Where exactly are you going with this? Maybe we should think more carefully and more critically about the stories we choose to tell and whose perspectives we're centering in those stories, Kelly responds without missing a beat. Because when you actually look at your career, Colin, when you really examine it, it's a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. Wealthy white British men being portrayed as heroes, as romantic ideals, as the people we should admire and aspire to be like. Don't you think that's a bit limited? Don't you think that's problematic in today's world? The audience is absolutely dead silent now. You could hear someone breathing from across the room. People are looking at each other with wide, shocked eyes, clearly wondering what on earth is happening and where this incredibly uncomfortable confrontation is going. This has gone from a slightly awkward question to something much, much more confrontational and hostile. Colin takes a deep, measured breath, and you can see him physically trying to maintain his composure, to not lose his temper on national television. I think my career has actually been quite diverse if you really look at it objectively. I've played a wide range of different characters across many different genres and time periods and countries. I've done period pieces, yes, but also contemporary drama, action films, romantic comedies, war films, spy thrillers. To reduce it all to one simple stereotype is rather unfair and, frankly, inaccurate. Is it, though? Kelly tilts her head, her tone bordering on condescending now. Because I actually looked at your filmography before you came on today. I did my research, and I noticed a very clear pattern. Even in your more modern films, you're almost always playing someone highly educated, articulate, well-spoken, usually wealthy, or at least financially comfortable. You don't exactly step outside your comfort zone much, do you? You don't take risks. Colin's face is starting to flush red now, genuine anger beginning to show through. My comfort zone? Kelly, I've been acting professionally for over 40 years, 4 decades. I've done Shakespeare on stage in London. I've done contemporary drama. I've done action sequences. I've worked with directors from all over the world: America, Britain, Europe, Asia. I speak multiple languages fluently. I've challenged myself constantly, pushed myself constantly throughout my entire career. To suggest otherwise is insulting. But always from a position of privilege. Kelly interrupts him sharply. That's my entire point that you keep missing. You've never had to struggle. You went to prestigious private schools. You had industry connections through your family. You came from a comfortable, upper middle class background. And that inherent privilege colors absolutely everything you do, every choice you make, whether you realize it or acknowledge it or not. Okay, now Colin is visibly, obviously upset. You can see it in every line of his body. His hands are gripping the armrests of his chair so tightly his knuckles are turning white. I'm sorry, but this is becoming rather personal and rather inappropriate. You invited me here, specifically invited me onto your show to discuss my new film and my work, and instead you're attacking my background, my upbringing, my entire career, my entire life, really. What exactly is your agenda here? What are you actually trying to accomplish with this line of questioning? Kelly doesn't back down at all. If anything, she seems energized by his visible discomfort. She leans in even harder, more aggressively. My agenda is to have honest, real conversations about representation and privilege in Hollywood, about who gets opportunities and why, about what stories get told, and whose voices get heard. And if that makes you uncomfortable, if that makes you defensive, maybe you should ask yourself why that is. Maybe you should examine that reaction. It makes me uncomfortable because you're making completely unfounded assumptions about me as a person based solely on the roles I've played in films, Colin says, his British accent getting noticeably more pronounced as he gets more emotional and upset. You don't know anything about my personal life. You don't know about my struggles, my beliefs, my values, what I do in my private time. You're reducing me to a caricature, to a symbol of something you clearly have issues with. And that's not fair. That's not journalism. That's not even good conversation. Am I, though? Kelly challenges him directly. Or am I just pointing out uncomfortable truths that you don't want to acknowledge or face? Things that you've been able to avoid thinking about your whole life because of your privilege? The tension in the studio is absolutely thick now. You could cut it with a knife. The atmosphere is suffocating. The audience doesn't know whether they should clap or stay silent or what they're supposed to do. Kelly's band members in the corner are exchanging incredibly nervous glances with each other. The producers must be losing their minds backstage. The cameras keep rolling, capturing every single second of this absolute disaster unfolding in real time. Colin shakes his head slowly, deliberately. You know, what's interesting, Kelly? I've done literally hundreds of interviews over the course of my career. Hundreds. I've been asked difficult questions, challenging questions, questions that made me think deeply about my work. But I have never, not once, been ambushed quite like this. This isn't an interview. This isn't a conversation. This is an interrogation. This is a trial where I'm apparently guilty until proven innocent. Nobody's interrogating you, Colin. Don't be so dramatic. Kelly's voice has an edge of mockery now. I'm just asking you to think critically about your work and your privilege. That's all. Is that really so difficult? My privilege? Colin's voice rises slightly in volume and pitch. You seriously want to talk about privilege right now? You're one of the most successful entertainers in America. You have your own nationally syndicated talk show that millions of people watch every single day. You make millions upon millions of dollars. You have a platform to reach millions of people, and you're using it to, what exactly? To tear down a guest who came here in good faith, who came here expecting a professional interview. Kelly's eyes flash with anger. Don't you dare try to turn this around on me. Don't you dare. I worked my ass off to get where I am today. I came from absolutely nothing. I grew up poor. I sang my way out of poverty on a reality television show while millions of people judged every single thing about me, my appearance, my voice, my personality, everything. I earned every single thing I have. And I respect that immensely, Kelly. I truly do, Colin says, but his voice is tight and strained. Your journey is remarkable and inspiring, but that doesn't give you the moral authority to judge me for things I had absolutely no control over. I didn't choose where I was born. I didn't choose what family I was born into. I didn't choose my circumstances any more than you chose yours. Nobody chooses that. I didn't choose any of that. But you've benefited from it your entire life. Kelly shoots back instantly. And from what I can see, you've never once acknowledged it publicly. You've never used your platform to speak about these issues or advocate for people who don't have your advantages. You just coast along, taking role after role that reinforces the same systems. Colin stands up now. Not aggressively, but definitively, like he's had enough. You have absolutely no idea what I do or don't do with my platform. You don't know what causes I support, what charities I work with, what conversations I have in private. You've decided who I am based on a superficial reading of my IMDb page, and frankly, that's incredibly presumptuous. Kelly stands up too. Sit down, Colin. We're not finished here. Actually, we are, Colin says firmly. I came on this show as a guest, not a defendant, not someone who needs to justify their entire existence to you or anyone else. The audience gasps. This is unprecedented. Nobody walks off Kelly's show. She's known for being nice, for making people feel comfortable. This is not how things are supposed to go. Kelly's face is red now, too. So you're just going to run away when someone challenges you? That's really mature. Challenges me? Colin's voice is sharp now, cutting. Kelly, you haven't challenged me. You've attacked me. There's a profound difference. A challenge is thoughtful and opens dialogue. An attack is meant to shame and diminish, and I refuse to participate in it any longer. I think you're being incredibly defensive. Defensive? Colin actually laughs, but it's not a happy sound. Of course I'm being defensive. You've spent the last 15 minutes telling me that everything I've accomplished is meaningless because of circumstances I had no control over. How else am I supposed to respond? Kelly crosses her arms. You could try actually engaging with the criticism instead of playing the victim. That word, victim. You can see it land on Colin like a slap. His whole body goes rigid. Playing the victim? That's rich coming from someone who literally started this conversation by bringing up their own struggles unprompted. His British reserve is completely gone now. This is raw anger. You know what I think, Kelly? I think you have some personal issue you're working through, and you decided to take it out on me because I represent something you resent. And that's not fair. That's not professional. And that's certainly not good television. Don't you analyze me, Kelly snaps. You don't know anything about me or what I'm trying to do here. You're right, I don't. Because this entire conversation has been about you projecting your assumptions onto me. You haven't asked me a single genuine question. You've made statements disguised as questions, all designed to put me in an impossible position. People in the audience are starting to pull out their phones now, recording this. The producers are probably freaking out backstage. This is going viral before it even finishes taping. Kelly's producer tries to interject from offstage, calling for a commercial break, but Kelly waves her hand dismissively. No, we're finishing this conversation. There's nothing to finish, Colin says, already reaching for his microphone. You've made your point, whatever it was supposed to be. You've gotten your viral moment. Congratulations. That's not what this is about, isn't it? Colin cuts her off, finally getting his mic pack unclipped. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you wanted to create controversy. You wanted to be the host who isn't afraid to ask the tough questions or whatever, and you picked me because you thought I'd be too polite to fight back. Kelly's voice goes cold. I picked you because I thought you might actually have something interesting to say for once in your career. Clearly, I was wrong. The entire audience gasps again. That was brutal. That was mean. That was way over the line. Colin stares at her for a long moment, and you can see genuine hurt flash across his face before it hardens into something else. Disappointment, maybe, or disgust. You know what's truly sad about this, Kelly? His voice is quiet now, but somehow that makes it more powerful. You had the opportunity to have a real conversation. If you had approached this with curiosity instead of judgment, if you had actually wanted to understand instead of condemn, we could have discussed something meaningful, but instead you chose cruelty disguised as social consciousness, and that's not progressive. That's just being a bully with better vocabulary. Kelly's mouth opens, then closes. For the first time in this entire exchange, she seems at a loss for words. Colin doesn't wait for a response. He sets his microphone down on the chair, straightens his jacket, and looks directly at the camera. To anyone watching this, I apologize that what should have been an enjoyable conversation turned into whatever this was. I hope you'll still consider seeing the film, which was made by a wonderfully diverse and talented group of people who poured their hearts into it. Then he turns and walks toward the exit, not running, not storming off in rage, but walking with dignity, his head held high, his shoulders back, very British, very controlled. But you can see the anger in every line of his body. Kelly finally finds her voice again. Colin, wait. But he doesn't wait. He doesn't turn around. He doesn't acknowledge her at all. He just keeps walking, past the cameras, past the stunned audience members, past the band who are all staring with their mouths hanging open. Kelly is left standing there on her stage, in front of her audience, on her show, looking completely thrown. Her team is scrambling. The audience doesn't know whether to clap or boo or what to do. The energy is absolutely chaotic. Well, she finally says, trying to recover some composure, I guess some people can't handle honest discourse. But her voice shakes. Her hands are trembling slightly. You can tell she knows this went too far, that this spiraled out of control in a way she never intended. But she's too proud or too committed to the bit to back down now. Behind the stage, you can hear raised voices. Colin is clearly having words with someone, probably telling them exactly what he thinks about the ambush he just endured. His voice carries back to the studio, sharp and angry. That was completely unacceptable. You told me this would be a standard promotional interview. Instead, I was blindsided with accusations and personal attacks. If you think I'm coming back out there, you're out of your minds. Kelly stands on her stage, arms still crossed, jaw set. She's not apologizing. She's not running after him. She's standing her ground, even as her audience sits in stunned silence, even as her staff frantically tries to figure out how to salvage the rest of the show. The cameras keep rolling for a few more seconds, capturing Kelly's face as reality seems to sink in about what just happened. Then someone finally yells to cut, and the stage lights dim slightly as the taping stops. But the damage is done. Colin Firth, one of the most respected and beloved actors in the world, just walked off the Kelly Clarkson show after being pushed too far by a host who refused to back down even when things went completely off the rails.